Okay, by now we should be fairly familiar with the laws of exponents, when to add those exponents, subtract, and so forth. So I'm going to work through several problems here where we actually apply these rules in order to multiply polynomials. So let's get started on problem number 1. I'm not going to do all of these. I will do about half of these just to give you an idea of how to multiply these together. So on problem number 1, I have a monomial being multiplied by a binomial. And if I multiply or distribute the 6v across both of these terms, 6v times 2v, and then I'm going to multiply 6v times 3. So 6v times 2v is going to be 12, because 6 times 2 is 12. V to the power of, well, I have a 1 here that's understood and a 1 here, so that's going to be v to the power, and since I'm multiplying, that's going to be 1 plus 1, which is 2. So that's 12v squared. And then I have a plus here that's going to go along for the ride. And then we will do the second part. Let me clean this up a little bit. Now I'm going to distribute the 6v times the second term, 3. And of course, 6 times 3 is 18. And then v just comes along for the ride. So that is the multiplied version of this product here. Now, if we were factoring this, we would end up going back to the original problem, right? Because factoring is the opposite of multiplying. But the directions tell us today to find the product, right? So in other words, we are multiplying polynomials together today. Let's look at problem number 4. On problem number 4, same thing, right? I'm going to distribute the negative 4 across both of these terms inside the parentheses. So negative 4 times v is negative 4 times v, negative 4v, rather. And then I have to multiply negative 4 times positive 1. And of course, a negative times a positive is a negative, so negative 4 times positive 1 is negative 4. Wow, that's a big negative 4. So let me take that off and try again here. That takes care of problem number 4. Let's look at problem number 5. On problem number 5, I'm multiplying a binomial times a binomial, and we can use the FOIL method in order to multiply these two binomials together. So let's do that. Remember, FOIL stands for first terms, outside terms, inside terms, and last terms. And this is for multiplying binomials, and that's exactly what we're doing here on problem number 5. So let's take care of the first terms. I'm going to multiply 2n times 6n, because those are the first terms in each expression. So 2n multiplied by 6n is going to give me 12n to the power of 2, right? Because we're multiplying, which means we have to add those exponents together. So that's going to be 12n squared. Now I'm going to do the outside terms. Let me switch colors here. If I do the outside terms, I'm going to multiply 1 times 2n, because those are on the outside. And 1 times 2n is just positive 2n. So that takes care of the O in FOIL. And now I'm going to go after the inside, or the inner terms, the ones that are on the inside, right? That's just the 2 times the 6n. And 2 times 6n is positive 12n. And finally, we're going to employ the L in FOIL, which means last term. So that would be the 2 times 1, which is just 2. Now, even though we are finished multiplying, we are not finished with the problem, because I can go back and I can add 2n plus 12n, and that would give me 14n, right? 2n plus 12n is 14n's. So the final answer is going to be 12 n squared plus 14n plus 2. That will be our final solution there. Okay. Now let's take a look at problem number 6. Same thing, right? FOIL. And again, here we go. The first terms, I'm going to multiply 4n times 2n, which is going to be 8n squared. And if I switch and do the outside terms, that's going to be 6 times 4n, which is 24n, positive 24n. Then I'm going to switch gears again, and I'm going to the inside. And the inside terms are these two here, right? 1 times 2n is positive 2n. And finally, we'll go in and do the last terms together. The last terms are going to be the 1 and the 6, right? They're in the last positions. And then, of course, 1 times 6 is positive 6. So that takes care of the F, O, I, and L. And of course, I have to go and simplify. I can combine the 24n plus 10n. So what's the final answer going to be? Well, that's going to be 8n squared plus, now 24n plus 2n is going to be positive 26n. Plus 6. Okay, and again, we just multiplied two binomials together, and that's the solution. If I had given you this earlier in the semester and told you to factor, then you would have gone back to this, right? That would be the factored form. And let's take a look at a couple of more problems here. Let's look at number 13. Actually, I'm not going to solve all of 13. I'm going to help you set it up. Notice that this is 4p minus 1, all raised to the power of 2. Well, that can be rewritten as 4p minus 1 multiplied by itself, right? 4p minus 1. And of course, in order to multiply this, you have to FOIL, right? You'd have to do the first terms. Then you would have to do the outside terms multiplied together. And then you would do the inside terms multiplied together. And finally, you would multiply the last terms together. So you would have to FOIL that in order to figure it out. A lot of students mistakenly call this 16p squared plus 1 because they forget that they have to FOIL the outside and the inside. So I'll let you do that on your own. And in a moment, I will actually show you all of the solutions so you could check your work, just in case you want to go back and do some extra on your own. All right, so let's go ahead and look at a couple of harder problems. I'm going to do number 19. That's about as difficult as we'll probably get this semester. Different ways to do this. A lot of you were taught using the box method. And the box method is fine. If you know how to do the box method, by all means do that. I'm not going to do the box method. I'm going to just distribute 4a across all of these terms. And then when I'm finished, I'm going to then go back and distribute 2 times all of the terms here. And once I do that, then I will just simplify. So let's go ahead and start off by multiplying the 4a times everything in the second set of parentheses. Well, 4a times 6a squared, right? That would be 24a cubed. Goodness. (24a cubed). Then I have to multiply 4a times negative a, and a positive times a negative, that's going to be a negative 4a squared because I have to add those exponents together. And then I'm going to multiply 4a times 2, which gives me 8a. Okay. Now that's just the first part of this, right? We've multiplied the 4a times everything in the other set of parentheses. Now I have to go back and I have to multiply the 2 times everything in parentheses. And then 2 times 6a squared is 12a squared. And I'm going to put that positive 12a squared underneath the other a squared term, because I like to put my columns together. In fact, that's a very good habit, and you will know why later. So let's go ahead and put the 12a squared there under the negative 4a squared. And then I'm going to multiply 2 times negative a, which is negative 2a. And I'm going to put the negative 2a underneath the 8a because I want my a's in the same column. And then finally, I'm going to multiply 2 times 2, which is 4. And I'll just put the plus 4 here because there is no constant number on the top line. So it will sort of have its own place. And now that I'm finished, I'm going to simplify. I'm going to just bring down the 24a cubed because there's nothing else to add to that, right? 24a cubed. And then I have negative 4a squared, and I'm going to add to that 12a squared, and negative 4 plus 12 is positive 8, so that would be positive 8a squared. And then I have the a column, right? I have a positive 8a minus 2a, which is positive 6a. And then I'll just bring down the plus 4. So it looks to me like, if I did not make a mistake, and this is late on a Friday afternoon putting this video, but I encourage you to go and try some of these on your own. For example, you might try this problem here. And all you would have to do is the same thing that I just did. I would start with the smaller, the binomial, and I would just multiply 2n times n squared, and then 2n times 6n, and finally 2n times negative 4. And then when you finish that, multiply the negative 4, right? There's a minus sign in front of that 4. So negative 4 times n squared, and then negative 4 times positive 6n, and finally negative 4 times negative 4. And I would put those in columns as you do that, right? All of the ones marked in black would go in one column, and then all the ones I marked in red would go underneath, and then just add those together and you are finished. So let me flash the answers here if I have them, and I do. These are the solutions to page 1. And again, you can just pause the video as needed. And these are the solutions to page 2. Again, if I were you, I would work several of these until you are very comfortable with what's going on. Thank you.